My name is Sierra. I am 29 years old, and I hunt financial predators for a living. Right now, I am standing 20 feet away from my broke family at the international terminal. They are laughing, drinking champagne, and holding first-class boarding passes to the Maldives. They think I am at home, crying because they told me they couldn't afford to invite me. They don't know that every cent of that vacation was paid for with my stolen identity. They also don't know that I have been watching their transactions for 90 days, waiting for the total to hit exactly $82,000. Why did I wait? Because $75,000 is the difference between a family dispute and a federal prison sentence. And I am about to push the button, before I show you exactly how a cybersecurity analyst executes a kill switch on her own family. Tell me in the comments. Have you ever found out a secret that changed everything? The international terminal at LAX is a place designed to make you feel small. But my family looked larger than life. They were standing at the E-gate for the flight to Male, laughing loud enough to turn heads. My mother, Pamela, was draped in a cream cashmere shawl that I knew cost more than my first car. She looked radiant, the picture of a matriarch who had earned her leisure, clutching a glass of pre-flight champagne. Next to her was my brother, Logan, and his wife, Brittany. Logan was holding the boarding passes up like trophies, snapping a selfie with the first-class signage in the background. "We deserve this," I heard him say, his voice carrying over the hum of the terminal. I stood 10 feet away, partially hidden behind a concrete pillar near the duty-free shop. I wasn't wearing cashmere. I was wearing a hoodie and running shoes, vibrating with a cold, focused energy. I looked down at my phone. The banking app was already open. There it was, pending at the top of the list. $24,000. Maldives Resort and Air. 3 days ago, my mother had called me weeping, claiming they couldn't afford Dad's insulin. She said they were choosing between food and medicine. I had almost sent the money. Almost. But instead of a transfer, I had set a notification. And now, I was watching that insulin money board a flight to a private island. I didn't cry. I didn't storm over there and scream. That is what the old me would have done. That is what a victim does. I am a certified fraud examiner. I don't get mad. I get evidence. And I execute protocols. My thumb hovered over the red button on my screen marked, Report Fraud. Logan stepped up to the scanner first. He was grinning, handing the agent his pass with that arrogant flourish he uses when he thinks he is the smartest person in the room. The scanner beeped once, a happy little chirp. He stepped forward. I tapped the screen. Confirm. The digital signal hit the bank's server in milliseconds. The fraud algorithm, which I know intimately because I helped design them, slammed the gates shut on every account linked to my social security number. When Brittany tried to scan her pass, the machine didn't chirp. It let out a harsh, low buzz. A red light flashed on the console. The agent frowned and typed something into her keyboard. Logan turned back, confused. "What is the holdup?" "One moment, sir," the agent said, her voice dropping an octave into professional seriousness. She picked up the phone at the desk. I watched the color drain from my mother's face. It wasn't the panic of an innocent person. It was the terror of a parasite realizing the host has died. "Sir," the agent said, loud enough for the line behind them to hear. "I am afraid these tickets have been cancelled. The credit card used to purchase them has been flagged as stolen." "Stolen?" Logan laughed, but it sounded wet and nervous. "That is my card. Run it again. It is a mistake." "It is not a mistake, sir. The bank has initiated a code red lock. Security is on their way." The people in line behind them started to grumble. Brittany looked like she was going to be sick. Logan was shouting now, pulling out his wallet, trying to slam a physical card onto the desk. But I knew that piece of plastic was just dead weight now. I felt a rush of dopamine that was colder than ice. It was done. I had stopped them. I had saved my credit, embarrassed them publicly, and stranded them at the airport with nothing but their luggage and their lies. It was the perfect, clean victory. I adjusted my backpack, turned my back on the chaos, and started walking toward the exit. I thought the war was over. I didn't know I had just walked into the trap. I didn't make it 3 steps. I turned toward the exit, adrenaline still cooling in my veins, and walked straight into a wall of dark blue uniforms. 2 airport police officers blocked my path, their hands hovering near their belts. They didn't look like they were there for a chat. "Ma'am," the taller one barked. "Stop right there. Drop the phone." Behind me, Logan's voice rose into a scream that was pitched perfectly between panic and authority. "That is her. She is the one. She is executing a remote wipe right now." I froze. My phone was snatched from my hand before I could lock the screen. "She hacked my accounts," Logan was shouting now, pointing a trembling finger at me. "She stole my phone earlier, cloned the credentials, and now she is wiping our assets because I refused to give her money. She is a cyberstalker. I work in cyber ops. I know what this looks like. Check her device." She is running a script. It was a brilliant lie. He used the jargon just right. He knew that to a local cop, remote wipe, and cloned credentials sounded like immediate, dangerous threats that required physical suppression. He weaponized his job title against my reality. Turn around, the officer ordered. Hands behind your back. I am the account holder, I said, my voice calm, though my pulse was hammering against my ribs. He is using stolen. Turn around, now. I felt the cold bite of steel against my wrists. They walked me backward, pressing me against the glass wall of the terminal, treating me like a violent threat. The humiliation was physical. Hundreds of travelers stopped to watch the girl in the hoodie get taken down while the well-dressed family in the first-class line looked on with wide, victimized eyes. My mother pressed a hand to her chest, playing the fragile matriarch perfectly. Brittany looked terrified, but she didn't say a word to defend me. Logan walked up to the police line, his face a mask of concern for the officers. But when he looked at me, his eyes were dead. He leaned in, just close enough that only I could hear him over the terminal announcements. You think you are smart? He whispered, his voice wet with venom. You think you can embarrass me? I am going to bury you in legal fees. By the time I am done, you won't be a fraud examiner. You will be a felon. He stepped back, shaking his head for the audience. I just want my family to be safe, officer. She is unstable. They marched me away. As I sat in the back of the patrol car, staring at the mesh divider, most people would have been hyperventilating. I should have been terrified. Logan had flipped the script. He had the narrative, the police on his side, and my phone in an evidence bag. But I wasn't scared. I was counting. Logan thought he was a hacker because he knew how to reset passwords and run basic scripts. He thought he had broken into my cloud accounts 3 months ago to get those credit card numbers. He thought he was a genius for finding that file labeled master passwords on my drive. He didn't know about the honeypot. In my line of work, you don't just build walls, you build traps. I hunt insider threats for a living. I know that predators cannot resist an open door. That file he found? It wasn't a mistake. It was a canary token. A digital tripwire disguised as a spreadsheet. I hadn't illegally tracked him. I had simply left a piece of cheese on the floor and waited for the rat to take a bite. Every time he opened that file to steal from me, he broadcasted his IP address, his device ID, and his exact GPS location directly to a secure server he couldn't access. He thought he was framing me. He didn't realize he had just handed me the shovel to dig his own grave. I leaned my head against the window and watched the terminal fade away. Let him have his moment. Let him think he won. He was about to find out that the only thing worse than a hacker is the person who designs the trap. The interrogation room at LAX is a masterclass in sensory deprivation. Cinder block walls painted a color that doesn't exist in nature. A table bolted to the floor. And a mirror that hums with the electricity of the people watching from the other side. The officer sitting across from me was young. Maybe 5 years my senior. Flipping through my ID and the seized phone. He looked bored. He thought this was a domestic dispute that got out of hand. He thought I was a hysterical sister who snapped. He didn't know I was calculating sentencing guidelines in my head. I stared at the scratches on the metal table and let my mind drift back 3 months. That was when the first crack appeared. I was at my desk, deep in a security audit for a client, when a notification popped up on my personal dashboard. Credit inquiry, unsecured personal loan, $15,000. I had called my mother immediately. She answered on the first ring, weeping. She told me Dad needed emergency vascular surgery. She said the insurance had denied it. She said they were desperate. We didn't want to worry you. She had sobbed. Logan is trying to handle it, but we need the money now or they won't operate. I paid it. I didn't even ask for the hospital name. I wired $15,000 to an account Logan controlled because I was a good daughter. But I am also a paranoid analyst. 2 days later, I traced the transaction. It didn't go to a hospital. It bounced through 3 exchanges and landed in a crypto wallet. I watched the blockchain ledger like a hawk. There was no surgery. There was just Logan, buying speculative coins that crashed 48 hours later. They didn't steal from me to save a life. They stole from me to gamble. I should have stopped them then. Any rational person would have called the police 3 months ago. But I knew how the system worked. $15,000 is a family matter. It is a civil lawsuit. It is a slap on the wrist and a lifetime of Thanksgiving arguments. I didn't want an argument. I wanted an eviction from my life. 2 weeks ago, I saw the pending charge for the Maldives. $24,000. First class. 5 stars. I sat in my dark apartment, illuminated only by the blue light of my monitors, and my finger hovered over the freeze card button. My chest ached physically. A heavy, dull throb of betrayal. They were booking a paradise vacation using my credit score. while telling me I was too expensive to invite to dinner. I almost stopped it. I almost saved them from themselves. But then I looked at the total running tally of fraud. With the crypto, the car lease they opened in my name, and the shopping sprees, they were at $58,000. In the eyes of the federal government, there is a magic number. $75,000. That is the threshold where a financial crime often escalates from a state problem to a federal priority. It is the difference between probation and prison. So I took my hand off the mouse. I let the charge go through. I let them buy the tickets. I let them pack their bags. I needed them to cross the line. I needed them to commit wire fraud across state lines in an airport. The officer cleared his throat, pulling me back to the cold room. Your brother says this is a misunderstanding, he said, sliding a paper toward me. He says he is willing to drop the harassment charges if you sign this admission of guilt and agree to seek counseling. I looked at the paper. It was a lifeline. It was a way out. It was exactly what they expected me to do: fold, apologize, and pay the bill. I looked up at the officer, and for the first time, I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. I don't need counseling, I said softly. I need my phone call. The young officer sighed, tapping his pen against the clipboard. Ma'am, look. Your brother is pressing charges for cyberstalking. He says you are obsessed with his success. If you sign this, you walk away with a warning. If you don't, I have to book you. He looked at me with pity. He saw a jealous sister in a hoodie. He didn't see the wolf. I pushed the paper back across the table. I want my phone call. He rolled his eyes. You want to call a lawyer? It is Sunday. Good luck getting a public defender. I don't need a public defender, I said, dropping the fear I'd been faking. I need to call the FBI's San Francisco field office. Agent David Miller. Cybercrimes. The room shifted. Dial the main switchboard, I continued. Extension 4402. Tell him Sierra just crossed the $75,000 threshold. Execute the warrant. The officer froze. You think this is a family dispute? I said, the cuffs clinking as I leaned forward. It isn't. You're interfering with a 90-day federal sting. I'm a certified fraud examiner. My brother isn't the victim. He's the target. Minutes later, the officer returned with a phone. As he listened, his doubt drained into shock, then fear. He's sending a team, he said. Good. Uncuff me. When he asked why I let them steal more money, I showed him my burner phone and spreadsheet. Wire fraud sentencing scales by loss amount. I explained. At $58,000, they'd get probation. At $75,000, mandatory prison applies. I needed them to spend $17,000 more. The Maldives tickets cost $24,000. I added coldly. The moment he swiped that card, he bought himself a federal sentence. Then everything collapsed. The officer returned angry. Your cloud server is empty. No records. Your brother deleted everything. He says you fabricated this. My stomach dropped. I had given Logan admin access years ago. While police watched, he had wiped the files. Without source data, the officer said, pulling cuffs. You're under arrest for filing a false report. I laughed. He deleted them, I said. Which means he confessed. I showed him the alert. Canary triggered. File deletion. User. Admin. Logan. Time. 12:28 p.m. Device. iPad Pro. Location. LAX Gate 14. Biometric login confirmed. Those files were decoys, I said. The real logs are encrypted offshore. Deleting them required Face ID. He proved control and guilt. The door opened. Agent Miller, I said. You're late. At Gate 14. Logan was eating a burger. Relaxed until he saw the FBI jacket. It slipped from his hand. Logan Grant, Agent Miller announced. You're under arrest for wire fraud, aggravated identity theft, and obstruction of justice. They cuffed him. Then my mother. As they dragged him past, Logan lunged. You trapped me. I didn't, I said quietly. I gave you a choice. Thieves always try to erase the evidence. When it was over, the gate stood empty. Maldives. Boarding flashed on the screen. I'm fine, I told the airline agent. And for the first time, it was true. Logan faces 5 years. My mother. 3. I sold the house, moved north, changed my number. Last night, I deleted the folder labeled family. 0 day was over. If you're the one fixing things for a toxic family, check your logs. Freedom is worth the cost.